Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Ripple Effect Podcast. We are so glad that you've joined us, whether you're watching this or you're listening to this. Welcome to the studio as we recap the last week, as we talk about what's coming up, and we highlight a few things here behind the scenes at Timberlake Christian Church. As always, we are thanking you for joining us, but today, as always, not always, but sometimes always, Brian Sevitz is in the studio. Mary Green is in the studio. We're back to the OGs being in the studio joining us today. Before we get going, we want to highlight the sponsor of the week. The sponsor of the week this week is Golden Stars. Mary, would you like to tell everybody what this is?
Absolutely. We're so grateful for all of you who have participated in VBS this summer by donating supplies. There's always so many great experiments and things that we can do to make VBS even more fun and more hands-on and experiential, and yet that budget would just be astronomical. So we've had stars up in the lobbies, and we've had an Amazon wish list, and I've been organizing that this week, and it's just amazing. Thank you so much for helping us with VBS by providing.
Yes, thank you very much. We know that we've been talking about it a lot, but I love how we have something like this that the whole church can get behind. And if you get the chance to, next week, come by the church building anytime from
2 weeks is VBS.
2 weeks, sorry, in 2 weeks. If you come by the church building sometime in the morning before noon, and you get to experience and maybe just see, if you've never seen it before, what the kids do and how many lives are impacted in the name of Jesus. So we're so grateful for you all. And then here's my throwing star. It's just like
nice.
That's dangerous.
Almost a boomerang.
And almost a boomerang. Well, we want to recap this past Sunday. We had a great week. And this past Sunday we talked about the final judge that we were going to talk about in the series, Samson. And I wanted to know, Brian, do you know how many judges are mentioned in the book of Judges? That because we only talked about 6 of them. Do you know how, Mary? Do you know how many there are?
12.
There are 12 judges. So there's a whole other slew of judges that are mentioned. Now I'm going to guess quiz with you. Do you know? There's several judges that have lots of children. Do you know which judge has the most children? How many children they have?
No.
I don't remember the name, but I think it's like 40 children.
Woo. Wow.
And one had like 30 sons, and the big thing was they all rode on donkeys. They rode on donkeys and they went out and judged the land. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But we finished up with the Samson series. Do either of you have a favorite part of the Samson story? We hear Samson's story a lot. Favorite part or least favorite part maybe in the story?
I think I get exasperated sometimes by the fact that he was raised to be a Nazarite, to have this vow with God, and yet he just constantly was looking for other things. Pretty woman, the exact opposite of what his parents had intended, and yet God continued to show grace and mercy and use him in a powerful way all the way up till the very end when he got another chance. What
exasperates you about that? The fact that he was negligent, or the fact that like God still used someone like that, or all of it?
The fact that he had the opportunity to have a special, unique relationship with God, and yet that wasn't satisfying to him. He continually was pursuing his own things that looked better, looked more exciting, looked, more adventurous.
It was he definitely had a unique opportunity being set apart from birth that not everybody had. Interesting. That's good. It's a good thought.
I remember when I was a kid, watching those little Bible story videos. I don't remember what they were called, but
like Bible Adventure.
Bible Adventures. Yeah. I think we used to have them here.
There was VHS videos.
They were VHS.
I remember
for sure.
Samson was cool.
I know we had them here because at one point they converted them into DVDs. But of course the slaying of 1,000. That was the part that when I was a kid. That's what was memorable. But I guess now I I like the parallel with us, really, that there's really no reason he should have been used the way he was.
Yeah.
Because he was so negligent and everything. But we are too. I mean, I have been.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I think that's what I tried to do on Sunday. Was growing up, you think this is a cool story, like he was super strong and it was like a superhero, but really it's a messy story, and it's like even after he kills all those Philistines, it's still a mess and people are still oppressed. Even after, with the donkey's jawbone, even after he dies, there isn't a spiritual revolution. It's just more, actually it's worse. Everybody does what's right in there. Like it leaves it in such this horrible state, which we should long for Jesus, I think is the point. But it's not a cheer Samson on kind of story. It's like, oh, buddy, you really messed that up. So we talked about how this past week about how even though it's messy, God still used Samson, and we might have felt like our mistakes or our failures disqualify us. But the hope of Jesus is that we're forgiven, that God still uses us, and we have that opportunity for a unique relationship with God, and we should take advantage of it because he's calling us to come back to him.
And if you're Samson's mother, don't give up.
Oh my goodness.
Just keep praying for your children.
Well, there's like a whole sermon you could do, I was thinking about, because before Samson's even born, there's a whole interaction between Samson's mom and dad and the angel of the Lord. And there's a whole sermon you could preach on parents don't discount what you do before your children are born and how it can impact them. But yeah, I wonder, there were probably so many sleepless nights that she had praying for her son. But that's a whole other
story.
So if you missed that sermon, you can go to tlcc.church and you can see all that online. And we hope that it's encouraging to you and a reminder of God's goodness and his power at work in your life. Okay, we want to let you know of a couple things coming up. Brian, you got the TLCC top 3 for the week.
Yeah, first one is leadership recommendations. So our church's process is to accept recommendations for elders and deacons from the congregation, because people look around them and they recognize usually guys who already are doing these jobs, maybe not totally, but they're already fulfilling a lot of these duties of elder or deacon, and we're just kind of giving them the title, and usually there's a little bit more responsibility that then comes with it. But the leadership recommendation forms came out last week, and we accept them for a couple more weeks at least, and the elders start going through them on the 10th, and they start to vet them, talk to these guys and say, are you interested, and all those things. And so if you have recognized a guy in our church that would be a great servant in the role of elder or deacon, those forms are at the info center, and we just ask you to put their name there. It's not your job to vet everything about them. I mean, they'll go through an interview process and all that, but you write down there just a very, very simple, sentence or two. Why do you think this person would be qualified and fit to serve in this area? So that's the first one.
Okay.
Second is the pool party. We had talked about VBS quite a bit, but I don't think on here we had mentioned the pool party.
So VBS is the 10th through the 14th, and then Friday the 14th in the evening from 7 to 9 we've rented the aquatic center out at Rothwell Park, and anyone in the church family is welcome to attend. It's a great opportunity. It's not free.
Well, I'm saying for you guys it's free. The church rented it out, but you show up, you don't have to pay.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
It's a great opportunity to meet some families whose kids maybe have come to VBS, and so I would definitely encourage you, if you come to the pool party, take a minute and introduce yourself to a family or two that you don't personally know. They might be members of our church that you haven't met yet, or they might be new visitors or new guests that we've made during VBS, and we want to welcome them and get to know them as well.
Well said.
All right. third one, Serve Day projects. Serve Day this year, I guess a little teaser for that is it's going to be September 10th. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. September 10th is a day where we're going to be worshiping down at the park. If you choose to, there'll still be an early service here if you can't easily get down to the park or something. But we're going to have a service at the park at 10:45 at our normal second hour time. That coincides with Gus Macker and Junk Junction and all that. And this year we hope we don't get rained out.
I was going to say, Brian has guaranteed us this year. He's already talked to God. There's not going to be any rain that morning.
Well, I have guaranteed you we're putting the instruments under the pavilion. Unless somebody has a huge tent they want to bring us in. Yeah. One way or another, our sound equipment's going to be under a covering this year. But before and after that, we're going to kind of combine Serve Day with that outdoor service that day. And so some of our projects will be early morning. Maybe people want to start at 7 and then they're done by the time that second service starts and they come downtown and worship and they're finished with theirs. Others will start right after it's over. So our goal is to have everybody in the church that's here that day participate in some projects. And so we need a variety of projects. And so we've talked about, like we do every year, starting earlier. And this isn't really that early.
No,
it's not that far away. Yeah. You can't start too early because then the projects you work on already get completed before then. But we want you to help with that. So if you notice a project, it could be at your house, it could be with a neighbor, it could be with an organization, it could be with a facility around town that never gets cared for the way that it needs to be, whatever. We have a website that we always put up, and I just updated it today. It's tlcc.church/serve. Really easy. Go there, and what's there currently is a form where you just fill out, I've noticed this project, and we can't guarantee every project that you submit is going to be done.
Yeah.
Like, we hope to get a ton of them and have to kind of pick through them and pick and choose. But we also would say, even if you're a little bit iffy about, will this project be appropriate, send it to us, please.
Yeah.
Because some years we're kind of short on projects.
Yeah.
If we want everybody to get involved, we need a project for at least 200 people.
Yeah. And a lot of those projects, we need to have a variety of projects so that you can have people who are not as ambulatory. You can have projects for people who are.
That means
good
people
at
that are able to get out and do stuff.
Yes.
Using big words.
Sorry.
Over here. Ambulatory. Oh my goodness.
And projects for people who like to do construction or
get
even
outside,
for families with young kids.
Yeah.
A variety of projects is helpful.
Yeah, and the whole goal of Serve Day is just to get outside of ourselves, to remember that we love worshiping together, but also if we're not being the hands and feet of Jesus, and we're not really, in our community and surrounding communities, that we're not really accomplishing our mission. And we know so many of you do that on a daily, weekly basis where you're serving people, but it's just good reminder as a church as a whole that we do this together to kind of solidify it as a commitment of ours to love others the way Christ has loved us. So we'd love for you to submit those ideas, maybe some suggestions that you have, tlcc.church/serve, and you can fill out that form there.
By the way, at that website, you'll also see a link just to a general serve form for, on an ongoing basis, our church needs, dozens, hundreds, really, of volunteers because not everybody serves every week.
Yeah.
And honestly, if we're a part of the body of Christ, we should all be serving.
Yeah.
Well, there's some of you listening that are like, I don't know where I fit into that. And it's a really simple form, and if you fill it out, it gets sent to us by email. It's just like, I want to serve, and I don't know exactly how, but here's some of my skills or whatever. And that's always on the website, but you may not have seen it before. And we guarantee you we can find a place for you to serve in this church or in one of our parachurch ministries or something.
Absolutely.
So there's your TLCC top 3, the leadership recommendations. If you want to fill the form out, it is at the front desk in the lobby of the church building. The pool party, which is happening July 14th.
7 to 9.
7 to 9. We'd love for you to participate in that. And then also just that kind of preview of Serve Day. And we'd love to have your input on different project ideas that you might have, or people that need to be served that you've noticed either are being neglected or need some extra help. So that's at tlcc.church/serve. There you go, TLC top 3 of the day. Okay, we want to move on to a spotlight of the week, and the spotlight of the week is going to be...
So I kind of decided this on my own.
He went
rogue. This was a very
kind
of weird morning where
we were all over the place.
Yeah.
I was gone for most of the morning at a meeting, and it's summertime, so people are here, and Mary's been gone for a month ish.
Feels like it.
I can't. So it has been a lull. Yep. So we don't have a whole lot to talk about.
So
Brian went rogue.
Our
Go ahead,
spotlight is going to just be talking about Camp Celebration.
Okay.
Because Mary's involved somewhat with every week because she's the treasurer. Mm-hmm. I didn't do much with camp this year.
Weren't you a dorm dad?
Not this year.
Oh, not this year?
No.
Okay.
No. And
I preached for a week. I was out there for 5th and 6th graders, or right?
Mm-hmm. 9, 10, 11.
9, 10, 11, yeah. And helped out a little bit with high school week.
So I made sure the sound system worked. That's
there you
about
go.
all. Which is huge.
So, Camp Celebration was Sunday night, and we didn't want to talk about some of these things last week because that kind of spoils Camp Celebration.
Right.
But we can just hit on some of the successes, I thought, because not everybody was there. It's always at a weird time, and attendance isn't great. Some people don't want to sit outside, whatever.
Yeah.
But I kind of jotted down some notes as we went through.
Okay.
That Seedling had 25 kids, Timber 26, Wildwood had 57. Mm-hmm. Which is that normal?
That's higher, but that's when we have a bunch of kids that age going through middle school right now.
Yeah.
And they've just moved up into one. Yeah. Wildwood.
Yeah, and then Acorn had 23, Sapling had 44. And the last couple of years I helped with Sapling, but Preston moved up, and I guess they had plenty of dorm beds. Nobody had to ask, and I didn't mind having a year off of doing that either.
Well, I tell you, Doug Delp was there, and he was telling me how he said, I said, oh, so you come back and you enjoy sleeping in the cabins. He's like, well, I tell you what, it's getting harder and harder. If I didn't have Ruby with him, he said, I don't know if I could do it again. But it's nice to have a little break.
It is cool because our camp is a local camp.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you hear those numbers. There's probably people listening that are like, well, I came from a camp that had 500 kids some of the weeks there. Lots of cabins and all that. Our camp feels unique, and one of the people there said something like, I wouldn't trade it for anything. Well, there might be people that disagree with that.
Yeah.
However, our camp has a very unique feel. Sometimes you have as many faculty or many helpers, volunteers as you do kids. They get a lot of attention. They have a lot of opportunity to talk one-on-one with teachers, and I think there's a lot of special things about our camp, that just in the years I've been, it was way different when I came from, huge camp with swimming pool and, air-conditioned chapel and all these things to this camp, and you could see positive about both, but there's something special about the feel of White Oak for sure.
Yeah.
And that's why people like
it's
Doug,
much more relational.
Yeah, they continue coming back. And the camp has made tons of improvements too in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
A long time ago, I used to do Mary's job, and it since that time, however long ago that was, I don't think we had any air conditioning in the cabins when I was the treasurer.
Yeah.
Things like that. So they have tried to make it, modernize it some. But somebody was standing there in line with me at the dinner at potluck, and they were like, "This chapel was here when I was a kid, or not the mess hall, not the chapel, the mess hall." And I was like, "Wow, I didn't realize that. They were." And this person might have grandkids that at camp now, you know.
Yeah.
So that was neat. So probably the biggest highlight that I wrote down out of all these things was during Wildwood Week. I think they said they had 7 people baptized during that week.
Yes.
And then 3 more students, which 2 of them I think are ours, were baptized at their home church, or are going to be. We still have 1 student going to be, like next week or something.
Yeah.
That came through and made that decision at camp. And that's amazing. When you look at the ratio there, that's amazing. So I would just say the other thing about camp celebration for me, and then you didn't get to come, did you? But you can give your thing. But I made a Facebook post about the fact I was sitting there, and Alan and Marilyn are on the screen from Australia in real time. It's all working flawlessly, thankfully. And I made this post that said, 75, or I don't remember how many years ago the homecoming was, but it's over 70 years for sure.
Yeah.
That the camp's been there, and people like your dad.
Mm-hmm.
When that camp started, could they have maybe they could imagine it, because there were like sci-fi things with flying cars and things out at that time, but could they have imagined having your like chapel speaker on TV
on the other side of the world?
On the other side of the world in real time. Only a few seconds,
delay.
Like 2 seconds of delay is all we were experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, this is really cool.
Yeah.
And I kind of worried how it would go.
Yeah.
For Matt's sake, because he planned it. And I was like, I hope this works. And it did. It went really well.
Mm-hmm.
But there's just so few barriers now to either the gospel getting out there or communication with people that we support like that. Mm-hmm. There were, I guess, I didn't mention the other missions that were supported. The Pioneer Bible Translators, the Phillips family, 2 different of the weeks supported Diamond Willow Ministries. And there was a group called Jungle Kids for Christ in Ecuador. Mm-hmm. Was that all of them? I think that was all of them.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting this year, in some weeks, up to a third of the campers were either brand new to White Oak, or they were not from any of our churches, that we regularly meet with.
Yes.
And so we are having a chance to spend a week with kids who have little to no daily input on a scriptural basis.
I'll say, last year when I was at Cabin Dad, 2 of the students in my cabin are from Moberly. I don't know their families that well, but they're not affiliated with our church really, other than they might have some friends that they know here. And that was really cool to, like, we're not just impacting the same kids that are going to come to VBS or that you already have in junior worship. The camp is reaching beyond our normal set of kids that we constantly interact with.
Yeah.
So if you want to know more about the camp, you can talk to Mary, who is there. You can talk to Brian and I as well. You could also check out their website to see some of the information. If you just search White Oak Christian Service Camp, you will find all that information. They've finished up this year, and they won't have anything now for the rest of the summer. But
the campground is being rented by several other entities that are using it.
Yeah. So I'm just mean through the youth camp weeks are done for the summer. Mm-hmm. So it'll get some use. But if you want to know more information about it, or maybe you've heard us talk about it, but you're not really sure what it's all about, you can get connected to it. Just talk to one of us, and we'd love to communicate with you.
You can also friend them on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Anna Fincher Culbertson does a great job of keeping posts up and current.
Yeah. So we want to close out with the blessing of the week. This week, Brian has the blessing of the week to share with us. So, Brian, would you bring us home?
Sure. I was thinking about camp and about my own sons and just other kids, and even how I was impacted by camp. And I am rereading through a worship leader's devotional that I've used in classes I've taught and everything. I actually think maybe Terry Couts might have given me this book, like when we graduated. I don't remember. He gave us some book, and it might have been this one. But just in my own, when I first get to work, sit in the recliner in my office and do a little devotional a couple times a week. And this is a book. It's called Times of Refreshing. And I don't know. I read this one 2 days ago, I think. And I thought our kids learn a lot at camp from the classes and all that, but they learn just as much by observation. And last night we were at a ball game, and I was thinking our baseball playing boys learn just as much. Like, there was one of the coaches that kind of went off the rails for a little bit, and I was like, yeah, these kids are learning things not only by like their coaches teaching them how to pitch or whatever, but by observing the way they react to, like, a call they disagree with, or all that. Probably they're learning just as much from that. And that's what this was about. People have a need to be taught not only by your words, but just as much by your actions. The don't do as I do as I say mentality has to be removed from our way of thinking. We, as the people involved in the ministry, and this is, again, written for worship leaders, but I think it applies to all of us. It says we, the people involved in the ministry of praise and worship, can't just talk about worship being a way of life. We have to live it. And so that applies to all of us. We must live it to the extent that others can look at us and see what worshipers are really like. Refusing to accept this responsibility isn't an option. Like it or not, people will learn from your example. And so again, blessing/challenge is just that we're always an example. I mean, and especially with kids, like as we go into VBS, or as your cabin dad, or you coaching a baseball team, like I think they're learning as much or more from those little things they observe in us and our attitude and stuff. And people learn that about Christians and Christianity too.
That's both a blessing, and it's both a blessing, and it's also terrifying.
Yeah.
It's a blessing because no matter who you are, the example you set matters, which means you matter. It's also terrifying because then you're like, okay, people are watching
every single interaction.
Yeah, and who I am when I think people are watching matters just as much as when I think other people aren't watching, because usually that's when your true self comes out and someone's seeing. Someone's watching, whether it's your children or your family or people around you. So it's a great reminder.
Yeah, like one of the, and I don't even know exactly what happened, but one of the parents at the game last night, the umpire turned around and yelled at him and said, watch the game and shut up or get out, basically, or something like that. Like he had it.
Right.
Well, the coach after the game sent, and this is maybe why this was on my mind, he sent to our little group chat thing, parents, remember what you agreed to when you signed up. Like, our kids are learning from you. And you could say that about a lot of things in life. And with Christians in our daily interactions, people are learning about God. They should be learning who God really is by our interaction. But sometimes we have to ask for grace because we don't do that well. I don't always do that well.
All right, so I hear you. I got to stop yelling so much at basketball games. I hear it now.
There's a difference between, like, a coach should be passionate. Like,
yes.
I love Preston's coaches, and the people I was talking about are not, the coach situation was not part of his team. Our boys have wonderful coaches this year, and I mean, they're passionate and they'll speak up when they need to. There's a difference between that and, like, heckling the umpire.
So be careful with your behavior. Know that people are watching, and know that you are either shining a light on Jesus or you are detracting from that. We hope you have a great week. We hope that you're enjoying the summer, and we hope that God will continue to bless you and lead you as you trust and follow in Him. We hope to see you next week here on the Ripple Effect Podcast. Have a great day.